right, well, we'll get started here. I'm Karuna. I'm the founder and executive director of Mind Oasis, and this is the third week for our How to Meditate series. And before we go through the material, I'd just like to say thanks for being here. Thanks for watching the recording. If you haven't yet signed up for a week of free trial for community meditation, I'll encourage you to do so. Having the support of a live online group meditation for your practice can be quite profound. It's it's one of the most potent ways to establish a consistent practice. A consistent practice will change your whole life for the better. And so it's one thing to practice with a recording or to practice on your own, but actually group meditation is where it's at. It's interesting because we think of meditation as a solo sport, but once you experience seeing other people's faces, having the accountability of others looking forward to seeing you, your whole practice can change. So I'll encourage you to try out community meditation. We have almost 30 guides, so there's a lot of different personalities and such that you can experience. So let's take a moment here and we'll have a little check-in, and then I'll go through a couple of points from the book, How to Meditate. As you can see, my copy is dog-eared and written in and all sorts of things. I refer to this book all the time. It would be a great book to add to your library for sure. So let's take a good seat. You're welcome to meditate with your eyes open or closed, but let's go ahead and close the eyes for our check-in. And you'll take 3 full satisfying breaths here, in through the nose, a little pause at the top, and an exhale. 2 more. One more. And then just for a moment, feeling the physical sensation of your body. What is it like to be you today physically? How are you feeling emotionally today? It is the time of the autumnal equinox, so we are well balanced, right? Between night and day, light and dark. How are you feeling emotionally in your body today? And then finally, what's the state of your mind? And when I say mind, this is not your thinking brain. Actually, this is your heart mind. So you might touch your heart space. Does it feel vast and open or closed down or something else? And then pull in a few more of these full, satisfying breaths, just the way that you like them. And then for one moment here, remember why you aspire to meditate. What do you hope that meditation, having a consistent meditation practice, can do for you? and tuck that little intention into that heart space, and then wiggling fingers and toes. We'll go through just a few things in the book. So I think the first week I talked about the quote that Pema shares in the very beginning. This is how she starts out with a why to meditate. She starts out with why not to meditate. And she says, we do not meditate in order to be comfortable. And I think there's a part of us that wishes that we could improve, or that our life would improve. And this is not to say that your life wouldn't improve with a consistent practice, but the point isn't to improve. You're not an improvement project. You're perfect, whole, and complete as you are. And there's a little part of us that doesn't believe that, right? But a meditation practice actually is just an opening of your eyes to the present moment. In other words, it's a window into what is. And then once you take a peek at how your life is, if there are things that you would like to change, then you can change them. But you have to understand where you are in order to think about where you want to go. And then the next week, so last week, I talked about, I think she goes through 5 different aspects, like things that happen in your life when you pick up a good meditation practice. And Pema says that we are nurturing 5 qualities that begin to come forward over the months and years as you begin to meditate. And the first one is steadfastness. And that's what we explored last week. And she says that through meditation, we are developing a loyalty to ourselves. Steadfastness means that when you sit down to meditate and you allow yourself to experience what's happening in that moment, you stay with the experience. So the idea is, if you sit down and you go through your 3 lenses, right? We look at, how am I feeling physically? How am I feeling emotionally? And what's the state of my heart mind? This isn't your thinking brain. It's more about your heart mind. It's more about that connector to all other beings. And I know that can feel a little confusing, but it's just a noticing, like, do I feel vast and open? Am I receptive and curious? Or do I feel shut down and judgmental, right? These are 2 extremes, and you might be somewhere right in the middle. And as you go through those 3 lenses, the steadfastness is to stay with it. So if you notice that your entire body feels like it's on fire, it's not trying to change it. This is a noticing. The changing, that can come after meditation, right? That might mean, oh, today I need to have more nourishment. I need to not put booze into my body. I need to take a nice warm shower, or I need to go for a walk and move that energy. So there's just this power in the noticing. And that's what the steadfastness is. And if you notice that you're really feeling sad or distraught or angry or resentful, that's probably not the day to get into it with your boss or your partner, right? This is the day that you practice zip asana. But if you don't know what's running underneath or in the background, it's very difficult to use that information in a powerful, helpful way, right? So that first aspect is a steadfastness or loyalty to yourself. The second quality, which is what we're going to talk about today, is what we call clear seeing. And it's similar to steadfastness, clear awareness. We develop the ability to catch ourselves when we are spinning off or hardening to circumstances and people and closing down. You would think that because we're sitting in meditation, so quiet and still focusing on the breath, that we wouldn't notice very much, but it's actually quite the opposite. And this is why I think a lot of people start out excited for a meditation practice and then very quickly get discouraged. This is also why meditating in a group is very powerful. There is comfort being in the presence of others and not being by yourself, because as we experience clear seeing, we're going to connect with, potentially, what a hot mess we are. And then there's a part of us that's like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. It's been there all the time. All the neuroses has been there the whole time. We just do things, especially in the West, to avoid noticing what's really going on, right? So we numb out, chocolate, booze, sex, whatever it might be. We blip over by remaining overly busy, or we zone out. Netflix, whatever your form of television is, etc. And even meditation can be used that way. And the practice is actually turning towards your experience. That's the practice. It's not pushing away or wishing that it was different. It's turning towards it and saying, oh, it's like this now. That's what my buddy Lama Marut used to say. It's like this now. And it is only through clear seeing that we begin to form a non-judgmental, unbiased clarity. Thoughts come, emotions come, and we see those. We see them clearly. Pema says, in meditation, you're moving closer and closer to yourself, and you begin to see yourself so much more clearly. You begin to see clearly without a conceptual analysis, because with regular practice, you see what you do over and over and over again, right? So when we sit down and we go through our 3 lenses, and then we begin to practice with the sensation of breath, let's say at the nostrils, or if that's triggering, you can use sensation in the palms of your hands. What happens is the sediment begins to settle, right? So if you think of like shaking up a jar that has sand and a few pebbles in it and water, right? You shake it and everything's all mixed up. But as you put that down and gravity takes place, the sediment begins to settle and there's clear water on the top and the sediment on the bottom. This is very much what happens in meditation. As you become a more adept meditator, the sediment begins to settle, and then you can see very clearly what's running you in the background. So for me, I used to think that I was, quote unquote, an angry or mean person, right? That was my one part of my identification of self. But once I meditated for a while, what came through is that I'm a very passionate person. And these things are 2 parts of the same coin, right? If I wasn't fiery, we wouldn't have a mind oasis. I wouldn't have the tenacity to keep going. But when the fire gets too hot, then it can turn into anger or mean-spiritedness. By seeing this, then in my meditation practice, I'm able to take just one step back, creating a little bit of space, so that when I want to go to reaction, when I want to go to the anger, I have the clarity of mind to say, no, I don't want to hurt people. That's not who I am. That's definitely not who I am. I've never been that person. Being able to get really intimate with what is running us underneath allows us then to make better choices about how we act above the surface and in relationship with others. That's clear seeing to me. And then for the sake of time, because we just have one more week of these sessions, we'll talk about the 3rd quality as well. And the 3rd quality is courage. It takes courage to sit with your mind and to notice the patterns, to notice what's running you. Pema says, meditation is a transformative process rather than a magic makeover in which we doggedly aim to change something about ourselves. The more we practice, the more we open, and the more we develop courage in our life. Through this developing courage, we are often graced with a change in our worldview, if ever so slight. Meditation allows you to see something fresh that you've never seen before, or to understand something new that you've never understood before. Sometimes we call these boons of meditation blessings. In meditation, you learn how to get out of your own way long enough for there to be room for your own wisdom to manifest. And this happens because you're not repressing this wisdom any longer. When you develop the courage to experience your emotional distress at its most difficult level, and you're just sitting there with it in meditation, you realize how much comfort and how much security you get from your mental world. You begin to really get in touch with the feeling, the underlying energy of your emotions. The trick here is to see it, but to not add story to it. So this is when they talk about the mind being the blue sky and the thoughts and emotions being like clouds passing through. That metaphor is very helpful. But you have to have the courage to connect with what is. And that's one of the qualities that you are cultivating in your meditation practice. It's not a rejection of what's there. It's not a clinging to the story. It's being a passive observer. Oh, wow. I have a lot of feelings of anger. I have a lot of feelings of resentment, and then sitting there with it. Can you see why group meditation is so amazing, right? Who wants to be completely alone on that journey? Group meditation is supportive. When you finish, then there's people there who have had a similar experience to you. So yes, it takes steadfastness. Yes, it takes seeing clearly. And yes, it takes courage to have a meditation practice. There's so much going on. You're working with the power of your mind. It's one of the reasons why I feel very strongly that it's important to learn how to meditate and also to have strong, safe guides in meditation. And on community meditation, I can guarantee that that's true. I've trained our teachers and they are our guides, and they are all not just guiding you in meditation, but holding epic safe space for you. So if you haven't checked it out, be sure to go on your free 1-week trial of community meditation. It's $27 a month after that. We offer it 4 times a day, and we have nearly 30 teachers. There will certainly be a handful of profound, fun people for you to meet. And our community is just blossoming and growing, and we're happy that you're a part of it. So next week, we'll go through the last 2 qualities. Thank you again for joining me on this journey.